Welcome back to the Candy Colored Studio. I'm artist Katrina Berg, and this is episode 240. Today, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, but we're going to talk about Heavenly Mother art. We're going to talk about Swiss days, just so many things. But I thought we'll start with some gratitude. So the thing that I have been most grateful for lately is a very full summer. Busy, but just full of so much, like just one-on-one time with my kids, time with loved ones. We had family in town, like just so much gratitude to spend time with those that we love. And so that would be my gratitude. As for manifesting, you might already know, but my favorite season is fall. And I think the reason why it's my favorite is because it's the start of a new school year. I love learning. And so fall was always my favorite. I also really love the season fall because of the fall colors, the leaves, the sharpened pencils, all those fun things. But I'm manifesting right now growth in learning and specifically in truth. And so that's something that I really want for my kids. It's something that I'm looking for constantly. So that's what I'm manifesting right now. As for a red pill, I watched the most amazing interview within the last week. And why I say that is because basically this interview took 20 years. Like I've been researching stuff for 20 years and it was all in this episode. So there's these siblings. Their last name is like Mean. And the sister was a doctor. She graduated from Stanford. I want to say she's like an ENT specialist. And then her brother, he was a lobbyist for Coca-Cola. And so they both were learning all these things, finding all these truths, and they came together and started sharing what they were learning. And it's kind of mind-blowing. If you've never gone down these rabbit holes, it's a lot. It feels like I'm sure it would feel like a fire hose, but I think it's like probably one of the most important videos that I've seen in the past year. Anyways, so I'll just let you know, I'm going to leave two links in the show notes because the first one is the interview that I'm talking about. And it's an interview with the they're called Mean. Anyways, Casey and I can't remember what the other one's name is, but anyways, it's on Tucker Carlson. So it's amazing. I've been really enjoying all the interviews on there. Like Tucker's been interviewing some really amazing people and I can't recommend it enough. But I was talking to a friend and she said that there's a lot of people that are triggered by Tucker. And so she suggested another interview with these siblings. And so if you are one of those people, I will also attach an alternative interview which goes over much of the same stuff, but I will say take the fire hose. Go ahead and take the fire hose and listen to Tucker. Why not? If you like it, just listen to both of them because then you have one more opportunity to learn the information. But I would say there's so many topics in there, and if you want to know more about those topics or you're interested or they're like tweaking, piquing your interest or whatever, I would just jump in and start researching those topics. Like I say, a lot of these things I started studying 20 years ago, and it's crazy because a lot of the stuff, people just literally, family, friends, thought that I was crazy for making choices that I was making, but this is all coming out. All the truth is coming out, and you might recognize this familiar face, but there comes a point where nothing can stop it because it's being shouted. The truth is being shouted from the tops of the rooftops. And that's what I think about. So that's your red pill for this episode. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to start doing is grief strategies. I wanted to share and talk about ways that we can move through and process and just have a better experience as we're grieving. Obviously, when I say better experience, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable. But I think there are strategies that will help us have an overall better experience, whether that means that we process quicker, less painfully, just we're able to accept this change in a different way. So the one that I was thinking about most recently would be to celebrate whatever you're grieving, whether it's a person or whatever it is that you feel like you're having to let go. Celebrate that or that person in a new way. So for example, my grandma, who we never called grandma in her life. In fact, one of my roommates, sweet Amos P, she came over, was hanging out. She was like, "Hi, Grammy." grandma, I think she called my grandma, but she also called her Grammy because she knows she's not supposed to call her Grammy. So growing up, I called her Grammy. Her name is Ruth, but everyone called her Petey, which doesn't make any sense because her name is Ruth Fish. But she married my grandpa. His last name was Peterson. She went by Petey, okay? But to the grandkids, we called her Grammy. And then so at some point, I think because I had kids, the kids started calling her Gigi for like great Grammy, right? Gigi, but just those letters, not Gigi, but just two G's, Gigi. And then finally, in her last years of life, she wanted us to call her G. She just wanted to be G. And so, like, my mom, my aunt, like, everyone would just call her G. If you were part of the family, that's what you called her. Anyways, she was a very amazing person and also very unique, and I could do episodes and episodes about her. I think I may have done like a recording at some point about some memories that I have of her. But anyways, so she passed just a month ago. It's been about a month, and we kind of knew it was getting close for like the last few years. She's fallen quite a few times, and she was 96. So she lived a long, wonderful, beautiful life. Anyways, so being the amazing daughter that my mom and aunt are, there's just two siblings, just my mom and her younger sister, and they put on just an amazing celebration. This was not a typical celebration. Nothing in my G's life was ever typical, and so this was very appropriate for her. But I will say, I think everyone that went enjoyed it. Carl, my husband, was like, it was not a funeral. Like, you've never been to a funeral like this. It wasn't a wake, but maybe it's kind of like wakes that people have gone to. But anyways, so what my mom and my aunt did was they basically created a totally different experience. So we showed up and we had a dinner first, which I think is like such a good grief strategy. You should always make sure you're properly nourished before you go about your day, or you face something that's going to trigger you about the thing or person that you're grieving, right? So we ate first, which was such a great idea and a good plan. And then they basically had a program that was all planned out, and there were just some amazing things. Like, for example, we had the great grandkids, 4 of them recited the Gettysburg Address because my Grammy loved that. A lot of her life was really inspired by the Gettysburg Address. And so they recited that. These cute little, I think the oldest was probably 11 and the youngest was maybe 6, 5. Anyways, they were little. Okay. And then I got to read a poem. My mom and my aunt shared lots and lots of stories. My brother shared a story. Here's another crazy thing. They had after we ate dinner, my uncle had everyone, like one person from every table. So we were sitting in round tables, and he had one person introduce everyone at the table. And that was different, and yet also really special because you knew who everyone was there to support and to love on our Grammy and their cousin, Anyways, so that was kind of different. Another thing that they did was my Grammy loved jazz music. And so that's one of the reasons why you'll notice that a lot of my songs are named after jazz songs, because I love jazz. I feel so inspired by it. And when I'm just painting in the studio and want to be inspired or whatever, like that's what I go to, is typically jazz music. And so some friends, they sang and accompanied the beautiful summertime song. And so that was really cool. So there were lots of just really different things that happened that evening, but it was a true celebration of G and her life, and it was wonderful. So again, that's your grief strategy for today, is to just celebrate the person or the thing in a totally different way. So that would be my suggestion. Okay, let's jump into our topic. I wanted the topic basically to be a studio update. I want to talk about Swiss Days. I want to give you a really good peek at everything that I've been working on lately, and just tell you like what you can expect at Swiss Days, especially if you've never been. It's really, it's a big event. So it's going to be next Friday and Saturday. So it will be, obviously not this week, but the following week. It's like August 30th and 31st, and it opens at 8 a.m. in Midway. and then basically everyone stays until it gets dark. I think they might say 7, but most people stay open until you can't see anymore. So anyways, suggestions for Swiss days: always try to be hydrated because this weekend, for some reason, Labor Day weekend can be one of the hottest weekends of the year. And so they're one of my first years doing Swiss days. I remember looking down the aisle at all the people walking through the booths, and I was just so worried about some of the people because they needed to be hydrated. They needed to sit down. There's always entertainment happening in the big tent. There is this big tent in the middle of the square, and that's where all the musicians are doing their thing. There's lots of tables, and of course the whole thing is shaded. And so I would recommend stay hydrated, get in the shade, make sure you have good food to nourish you, and there are lots of great things for food. In fact, this is like one of the reasons why I had to take a break from Swiss days was because our twins were too little, and we found that I could just sell at home and do an open house, and that seemed to work. But now the kids, everyone just wants to be on the square the whole time during Swiss days, whether they're helping in the food booths or running around with their friends. That's what happens for 2 full days here. And really for us, Swiss days is a whole week long event, but then it also, like, our, I don't know if you know this, but the wards, like the church members, the LDS church members in Midway, they get a lot of the food prepped throughout the summer. So a lot of the women will make what's called Swiss Bratzlis, and they're these darling little like waffle cookies, and they're so good. And my mother-in-law comes just for those. She literally gets dropped off. She goes to the booth, gets her Bratzlis, and she goes back home. Like somebody must be circling around to like take her back. And so that just cracks me up. That's her favorite thing. Our kids love the scones. The scone bread is made fresh. Like, I can't remember if we started the day before or just we had to get up really early. Yeah, anyways, so another thing they make ahead of time though is the Swiss bread, and it's braided and it's wonderful, and then I think they must freeze it. So they do the Bratzlis, they freeze them, they freeze the Swiss bread. I'm trying to think what else they make, but these are the things that we do in the summertime. You can sign up and go do that, and so that's really cool. And then there's a lot of stuff during the week of, so everyone has to help mark where all the tents are going to go. You have all the stakes that are in, and then you have the youth of all the church groups. Anybody can participate, but it's mostly the church groups that are doing it. They're getting ready. They get help. They are peeling potatoes. They're doing all kinds of stuff, getting ready for this big event. So there's lots going on. They also get all the food together, make sure all the refrigerators are ready and working for all the food booths, because our church wards in Midway, we run all the food. And so that's amazing too. And just so you know, because people are always asking, like, this is such a big event and it's such a huge, like, there's so many volunteers that make it happen, because there's over 100,000 people that come to Swiss Days every year. And so it takes a lot of volunteers just to make sure that everything's running smoothly. And all the money that is for these food booths, like there is money that goes to the boosters to run the whole thing. Like it costs a lot just to have Wi-Fi there. As a vendor, I happen to know that. So there's that. There's all kinds of like security things. I think that we pay a lot of money to the sheriff's office to kind of like watch over the event those few days. And then of course the leftover, like whatever is the proceeds from the event, the majority of it goes right to the humanitarian department, what is it called? The LDS humanitarian something. So there's all kinds of places where that money goes, but that's what happens with the Swiss Days food booth money. So anyways, lots of things that I can say about Swiss Days. You're like, I never wanted to hear so many things about Swiss Days. But again, I'll just give you a few tips if you're coming for the first time, or if you haven't been for a while, or you just want to have a better experience. I would say definitely find the shade. I will be south of the big tent this year. I'm usually on the north side, but I'm going to be south, and we picked a booth. Carl helped me find a booth that's right by all those huge evergreen shade trees. So it goes the big tent, and then south of the big tent, the entertainment tent, are the shade trees, and then just south of that, I am in kind of the middle, right next to those trees. It's booth A40, and there are a bunch of artists that I know that are going to be there. Let's see, I could pull up my list. Hold on. Okay, so here's some of my cute friends that are going to be there. So Jen Seeley, she's going to be in booth B97, and Shelly Gunderson is going to be in A29. Eva Timothy is back again. She'll be in B7. Caitlin Rose will be in B27. Kristen Douglas, again, is back, and she'll be in A35. Liesl Cannon, B23. And then, of course, my neighbor and good friend, Robert Duncan, who probably has done more Swiss days than any artist I ever have known. But he'll be in A26. We're going to be neighbors. I think the people I'm closest to are Shelly Gunderson and Robert Duncan. So that'll be super fun. So those are some of the artists that you'll find. I also have my other neighbor who's a photographer, Quinn Calder. He'll also be there. He does amazing photography. And of course, there's always so many awesome things at Swiss Days. So it's such a fun event. I would say if you've never been before because you're worried about the crowds, come Friday night, because that's when it's the coolest. That's when there's the least amount of people. The busiest time to come is obviously Friday morning. While all the kids are in school, all the moms come. And if you're one of those awesome moms, just know that there's a lot of strollers. And they're always recommending to carry your child. And I know that that might be difficult. Not everyone can do that. But if you can, let us know how it goes, because that might actually be the easiest thing, is to just wear your babies and your little ones. Again, that makes it hard to carry your stuff. So whether you have little ones or not, the best thing to do is there is a drop off. So when you get a bunch of like packages, you go leave it at the drop off. It's kind of like a locker. Okay, almost like a coat check, and you take your stuff. So there's two big buildings on the southeast part of the square. There's the town hall, which is that old amazing building with the pot rock and the little Swiss people that pop out and sing and the bells chime. That's the town hall. And then just west of that is it is not as old of a building. It's probably from like the 70s. It was originally like a church house. Now it's our community center where we have all our meetings. But anyways, I believe that's where the drop off is. And so that would be the best thing to do if you have too many heavy things. Take your packages there, and then it'll give you more energy to see more booths and go get some food and see the entertainment, all that good stuff. So those are like some of my biggest suggestions. The last thing would be, sometimes you luck out and you drive into town and you find a really good spot for like $20 for the day or $10. Yeah, go ahead and grab it. But if you don't find a really good parking spot right off the bat, the best thing to do is go park in the shuttle parking and just go that route. And I promise it'll be wonderful. They do a great job, and it's really it's just an easy way to get in and out of Swiss Days. When I lived a little bit further away from downtown, sometimes I would walk to the parking lot where people were parking, and then I would get on the bus and ride over to Swiss Days, because that was the easiest thing for me. So there you go. There's my Swiss Days suggestions. Let me look at my list, make sure that I didn't miss anything. I think those are the biggest things. Okay, so obviously I've been getting ready for Swiss Days, and it's been a lot, because it's always a lot, but it's so much fun. And this is the only show that I'm doing this year where it's like me in a booth. Like, it's one thing if I take one piece to Springville or one piece to a special show like Certain Women, but this is the only real big show that I'm going to do this whole year, and I haven't done another one like this since last Swiss Days. So, you know, I'm excited, and really I was thinking about it, and I woke up this morning, and I've been like praying and fasting for Swiss Days. Now you're like, okay, you know that I pray and fast, and I have like lists of people that I pray for. And just like last month, I was having this horrible migraine, and it was going on for over a week, and it was just horrible because when I get those, like, I just have a hard time functioning. It's just really hard to be social. I don't go anywhere. Like, I'm lucky if I get any work done in the studio. And so my friend had reached out, and I just told her, like, I can't come to this event. I think she was having like a barbecue dinner, and it sounded so nice, but I'm like, I can't come. And I told her what was going on, and she's like, I have a group of friends, and we pray, like, we do group prayers, and we're going to pray for you. I can't even tell you, like, within a day or two, like, I totally could feel those prayers. Like, I felt like I was able to feel good enough that I went on a walk with Carl. Like, we try to go on a walk every night, and I just hadn't been able to walk because it was wiping me out with the migraine. Anyways, Kelly and her friends, like, anyone, if any of you are listening, I just want you to know that I love and appreciate you so much. Like, you know that I love to pray and fast for other people, but it really touched me that they were praying for me, and I felt it. And so it's so real. It makes such a difference when people take the time to, like, think about you and to consider you, and, you know, just to share that goodness. So Anyway, so I have been praying and fasting for Swiss days, and we're not talking typical things. Like if you were a normal person, you would probably be praying that the tent doesn't blow away and that it doesn't break. My tent is like on its last leg. These would be normal things to pray for. Maybe even that people would show up in my booth, or that people might buy something. That would be like normal things that I would be praying and fasting for. But what I've been praying and fasting for are you and anyone who comes to my booth, because what I have found from Swiss Days that has been so impactful for me, it's the conversations that I have with each person that comes to the show. And I was so surprised the very first Swiss Days, because I had some paintings about Heavenly Mother. I think the first one that I ever brought to Swiss Days was Welcome Children to the Garden. And it's the Tree of Life, and it has all the animals in the Garden of Eden. And then, of course, the Tree of Life represents our Heavenly Mother, and it's an ancient symbol of her. And then, anyway, so I just remember people asking me about it, and I would sit there and I would tell them the story, and we would laugh, we would cry, we would, have this amazing moment together. And I just went home that first Swiss Days going, oh my gosh, that's what Swiss Days is about. And I love my Heavenly Mother so much. She's helped me through so many things. I love my Heavenly Father and my Savior too, but I think it's really important, if we don't have a relationship with her and we want one, that we know that it's okay to ask for a relationship with her, especially if you're like me and you're a woman, because it's really hard to go through life thinking, oh, what kind of a person do I want to become? I can't become exactly like my father because I'm a mother. I need to be more like my Heavenly Mother. So if you've been around for a while, I have quite a few episodes in this podcast that are all about our Heavenly Mother, and I will link to some of those in the show notes. Now, if you ever want to know where the show notes are, just go to my website, katrinaberg.com, click on the tab podcast, and then scroll down to the episode that you listen to. Like this is 240. It'll be at the top because it's the most recent. And then in those show notes, I will tag a bunch of stuff that has to do with Heavenly Mother. I've had such a privilege to interview poets, authors, just amazing women that have spent time learning, getting to know their Heavenly Mother. And so there's quite a few things in there. I've also done episodes just on my own about Heavenly Mother. And one of the people that really helped with my journey is Margaret Barker. She lives in the UK. She's written quite a few books. I want to say she's called a clergy, but anyway, she's a religious woman leader, and she also has done tons and tons of research. Well, a couple days ago, I listened to the most amazing podcast interview on YouTube, and it's by the Stick of Joseph podcast. They also had David Butler with them, and these three men flew to the UK to be with Margaret Barker, and it was so awesome getting to just listen to her in real time talk to these men, and she was so amazing. She just sat there and gave out scripture after scripture in the Bible, and they just sat there and read all these scriptures and talked about the translations and possible mistranslations or other interpretations where she saw Heavenly Mother or the Divine Feminine, our Divine Feminine. So anyways, it's an amazing episode, and so I can't recommend it enough. It's probably one of their most recent, if you know where that podcast is, but I will leave that in the show notes because I just want to say that is an amazing thing. So going back to Swiss Days, this has become the theme for Swiss Days. Last year I brought Tell Me About Your Sacred Grove. I brought that painting to Swiss Days. I'm going to bring it again this year because I still have it, and it seems silly not to bring it. And so that's something that's also going to be in my booth. And again, we had some amazing conversations about that piece, but then also some other pieces that I've done that weren't there, but I had prints of. Here, I'll show you really quick. Let's see, there's this painting that I did, and it's called Asherah's Moonlight Bloom. So, obviously, our Heavenly Mother has lots of different names, Divine Feminine, but then she has names in the scriptures, and this is one of the names that Margaret and other, like scholars have said is that her name is Asherah. Okay, so I have to actually back up. But this is a painting. It's called Asherah's Moonlight Bloom. Moonlight Bloom. Okay, so the idea behind this painting is that for so long, we felt like we couldn't talk about Heavenly Mother. We were told she was too sacred to talk about. We didn't know where to go to learn about her. And yet so many of us really wanted to know about her. And so this particular piece is all about how, despite the fact that she wasn't as easily, I don't know, accessed, for mostly because of us, not because of her, but despite that. So it's almost like she's in the dark, right? She's in the moonlight and she is just shining and she's blooming, and she's blooming for us because we're her children and she loves us. And it doesn't matter if the world tells us not to talk about her, not to learn about her, like there she is shining and blooming in the moonlight. So that's Asherah's Moonlight Blooms. And then I did a sister piece to that one. Oh, here it is. Hold on. Right here next to me. And it's called Souviens-toi. Oh, I can't remember if I've ever sang this for you guys on the podcast, but it's a French hymn. Souviens-toi, mon enfant, tes parents divins. It's a beautiful song. But anyways, this is the sister piece for the one that I just showed you. It's called Souviens-toi, and then also Asherah in full bloom. So that first painting is about when she's in the darkness because we don't know she's there. And we don't know how much she loves us. I apologize for the glare. But anyways, you can get a good idea of that print. Anyways, so now she's shining in the light. She's in full bloom because we know that she's there. We know that we can have a relationship with her. And I think that's so beautiful. So those two pieces were created kind of as sister pieces. And then I've had some other really special pieces that I will have prints of. I've got one called The Two Trees of the Garden, and that one's pretty recent, and it's about the tree of life representing our mother and the tree of knowledge of good and evil representing father. And so that special painting with all their attributes, you know, shown in the flowers and the fruit of those trees, and the trees are kind of growing together. And my one friend said that it's like they're hugging, and it's so true. They just look they look one. They've cleaved onto each other. It's really beautiful. So anyways, that piece, I will have prints of that piece. I'll have prints of the Tell Me About Your Sacred Grove. Yeah, I'll have prints of all the Heavenly Mother art. And then of course I'll have other prints. I'll have fun prints of like French pieces, like this Eiffel Tower. And this size, it's actually pretty big. It's $2.95. I should give you pricing so that you know what it is. So the biggest prints are $2.95. Then they go down from there. If you don't get it framed, it's like $45, I think. Anyways, I'm going to have lots of prints that are framed, which will be really fun. And then there will be some prints that are not framed that you can buy as well. So I've got that. And then let me show you some of the other things that I'm going to be bringing. I'll show you some of these minis. So minis are always so much fun for Swiss days. This is one of my twins' favorites. So I did a couple bees. So there's two bees, and I've never done bees quite like these. Oh gosh, sorry, it's kind of hard to show you in the camera. So that'll be really fun. So we've got some bees, and of course, if we're having bees, we got to have birds, right? You guys know me, the birds and the bees. We need all the things, and I love hummingbirds. So we've got some hummingbirds. There's this sweet hummingbird that has like two little twin hummingbirds in a nest. We've got this, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a bird, something feeder. Anyways, there's that cute little bird. One more hummingbird. So there are 3 hummingbird minis and then one of the other one. And then I've also got a deer. We've got a cute little stag. And I did a rabbit. I think I've only done a couple rabbits mini size. So there's another cute little one. And then I love to bring landscapes, especially in the mini. They're so special in the mini. So we've got some of, these are always inspired by the Isle of Skye. And they have these darling little red roofed cottages in the Isle of Skye in Scotland. And so there's 4 of those. And then I've got some local landscapes. This one to me is like some of the hills in Midway and Heber Valley. And then I've got one that looks a little bit more like Timpanogos. I don't know if you can tell. You're probably looking at it backwards. And then I've got some flowers. We always have to have a handful of flowers, right? So we've got magnolias, and we've got some peonies and maybe some poppies. And then I think these are also maybe some hydrangeas. So really fun little tiny minis. And these are the ones that come with the easel. They're already framed. They're just a small circle, about as big as your hand. Anyway, so there's those. And then I've been working on some others. So I've got like 3 little French pieces, like Paris pieces. We've got the Notre Dame, and this is different for me. This is more of a neutral beige, blues, browns. Anyways, that's a fun one. And then I've got a nighttime Tour Eiffel. So we've got that fun one right there. And these will all be framed. They're not dry enough for me to varnish, but hopefully next week they will be. And then the last little Paris one I did is another 5x7. So I've got 3 5x7s. And this is just kind of looking up from we actually stood right here with our kids and took pictures. You can see the flowers, and then you're kind of looking up at the Eiffel Tower. Anyways, that's a fun one. And of course, they have really great names. Like this one is Les Amours Perdus. It's by the beautiful French song by Stacey Kent. That's a great one. And then I've got some more landscapes. This awesome one is in a Todd Orchard frame. Isn't that special? And those are little white sheepies, little sheep on the mountains. This is actually more like a Scottish Highlands painting with the heather, but you could definitely put that in your mind in multiple places. And then we've got another beautiful landscape. I named this after this beautiful song, Mountain Greenery. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And if you haven't found the link to my 2024 painting show list yet, I'll put that in the show notes as well. You can listen to some of the songs. But again, this was another 5x7. The last one I showed you was a 7x7. So these are all just a little bit bigger than those minis. And then I've got one sweet little robin, and it's a 5x7. It'll be framed. Again, I don't know if you can totally get all the goodness with this camera because of the glare, but there you go. And then I've got 2 florals with birds. Okay, this is a 6x9, and I believe these are peonies. I like to say peonies, with a chinoiserie vase and a cute little yellow finch. And then the last one, this fun one, is another chinoiserie vase, but with like colorful flowers, and it's got a cute little tropical bird, some like just barely blooming protea, and some eucalyptus. It's a really fun piece. So that's another 6x9. And then, oh, I have to show you this last one. So this is, I love this one. This is one of my favorites of the brand new pieces for Swiss Days. This is a circle. It's like 14.5 diameter. It has a gorgeous blue crane on the side, and then a chinoiserie blue vase, well, white and blue vase, with some peonies and some hydrangeas, a hummingbird, and another little, like maybe like a cockatiel. Anyways, cockatoo or cockatiel, I always get those two confused. But yeah, this one, I'm so excited about this one. Yeah, so I think this is named after Comme un oiseau. I don't know, it's an Emily Claire Barlow song. You know I love Emily Claire Barlow. So yeah, those are the pieces that I'm super excited to share with you. I have to show you, I will have these prints, the Tell Me About Your Sacred Grove, because it's a circle. It was kind of hard to, I do have some regular rectangular prints, but I have this, we found these circle frames, and so I'll be bringing those as well if you just want to print in the circle frame. They're kind of special, and so this is just like an 8-inch circle. So there you go. So there's that. Yeah, so I think that's all the things that I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully that's Hopefully that's everything. But yeah, I'm just so looking forward to spending time with each of you at Swiss Days. And if for some reason, like you're too far and you can't come or it's not a good weekend, just know that you can always come and set an appointment and spend time, because those are the times that I feel like I really get to connect with people and we get to share our hearts and just like really feel the special things from the artwork. So not too long ago, a couple came to my studio and we were talking about the meaning in one of the paintings, and then they went home and they ended up purchasing the piece and I shipped it to them. And then the wife, she emailed me or she must have texted me and she said, I wanted to tell you about our ministry. And it was so cool because I was, you know, when people come and they buy artwork for me, I don't always know if they consider themselves spiritual people. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm also going to share with you the meaning behind these pieces. And then I hope that whatever caught your eye or what brings you joy, that it continues with that painting. And so it's okay if we don't have the same, you know, intentions with the way that I created the art that you get out of the painting. It's totally fine. But it was really special because then she told me about their ministry and sent me her husband's podcast and his website. He writes this beautiful email that I get every day, and it's really special. And I think I've shared it on the podcast before, but I will share it with you. And again, it's been really amazing to get to know so many of you and get to know your hearts and to get to know like what you care about in life and what's special to you, the people that you love, and just all the things. And so I'm just really grateful for this opportunity to go to Swiss Days again. And so I just want to wish you a happy end of summer. If you're coming, make sure to stop by it so I can give you a hug and tell you that you're loved, because I do know that our Heavenly Parents and our Savior love you so very much. And lots of love from the CANDYcolored studio. Goodbye.